Last week, I showed you how Zillow creates an echo chamber to take false and bad information and broadcast it throughout the real estate news industry. This week, I'm going to show you how Redfin basically has the same thing, or maybe even worse. But before we get into the particulars, as always, let's start with the data in the market so we know where we are, and then I'll show you where the information takes us off stream. So interest rates, there's two main factors every week we evaluate. The buyer's number is interest rates, and you can see we are just below 7% closing this week at 6.90. Now, last week we were above 7 because of all the drama with the debt ceiling politics in Washington. That got resolved. So we've been between 6 and 7 all this year. When it got above 7, it came down. When it got below 6, it bumped up. And here again, we're kind of in that same range, though we're at the higher end of that range, and we should pay attention to that. On the seller's side, because in all economies, you have supply and demand, and the supply side would be the seller's side, is inventory. And inventory continues at record lows. In fact, we're tied for the all-time lowest, which ties with 2021, the pandemic year. And we're dropping inventory this year, whereas the pandemic year is starting to come back a little bit. So this is the lowest all-time inventory, lower than last year's pandemic period, lower than any other year other than during the pandemic by about 50%. So we have historically low inventory, and you cannot have housing prices crash as long as there is low inventory. In Los Angeles, to be a little more specific, in LA, we have a seller's rating of 44 using the Altos research method. We've been in that range for a while. It's been inching up towards the seller's side from 42 to 43, and the last month or so in the 44 range. And all the key factors, median list price slightly up, dollar per square foot slightly up. So overall in Los Angeles, we still have a healthy seller's market, which is common for this time of year. Okay, so the award for the most misleading news this week goes to Redfin. Now, Redfin is kind of a mixture because on one hand, it's a real estate company selling houses to buyers only, working primarily the buyer side, and then trying to get mortgages and other services as well. But they're primarily focused on getting buyers to depend on them. And so one way that businesses use to create loyalty is scaring customers so they turn to them. And I think that's Redfin's strategy with their misinformation. Let's take a look at the latest report, which is 1/3 of U.S. home buyers are paying in cash, the highest share in nearly a decade. Now, I'm in this business. I watch these numbers very closely. I'm not sure what that really means. I mean, I understand there's more cash buyers than ever. Is that because we're not building enough new housing? And so old housing stock, which is normally bought by cash and then converted through fix and flips into new inventory, is that what's going on more than ever? Possibly. But when you look at the graph, you see how ridiculous it is. Take a look at how minor that change is over the last month. And while that is a big change, let's say since the pandemic period, it's not that big from really 10 years ago, 9 years ago. It was kind of normal. So one factor I want to say is it's not that big a deal even on their graph, number one. Number two, not that big by historical standards. Number three, the graph itself is missing. Take a look at the bottom of the graph is 15%, not 0. And the top of the graph is 40%. So the whole range is 25%, 40 minus 15. Which is a quarter of 100%, meaning rather than a normal graph, which is 0 to 100, that would give you some perspective, they've purposely compressed it to make it look, I think, more scary. Why? I don't know. I think it's more dramatic. I think when you're selling information, you want it to be dramatic. And so to me, this little bitty dip that you could barely see is 4 times bigger than it should appear if it was on a proper mathematically correct graph. And then the differences over these years would be 1/4 as much. It wouldn't seem like such a big variance. From 27, 28 to 33 would not seem as big a deal. It would seem 1/4 the size. Not only that, and here's a curious piece. This data is based on April's information, not May's. Now, here we are June 9th today. And Redfin presents itself as a high-tech industry. Theoretically, they're getting the data daily. I'm a real estate agent. We have sales every day when we do comparables, or even monthly. At the end of the month, you have the new data. Why are they talking about the cash data in April, not in May, but in June? Very curious. Does that mean the trend changed? Not as interesting, so you report the old data? I don't know why. But here's what I want to say. Overall, To me, this is insignificant. Even if it was significant, we don't know what the significance is. I think that one reason why is because America is building less new houses for a lot of political reasons. More new houses are old houses being bought, fixed up, and resold. And those are traditionally done by cash. So I don't know if that means it's good or bad, but here's the part is they give the data and then let's see what happens as it goes into the marketplace. So the next place we want to show really where the echo is bad, take a look at how it shows when we Google this article. If I Google all cash home buyers Redfin, here's the Redfin article, but the next one is all cash buyers are becoming disruptive. Now that's interesting. Disruptive? How's it disruptive? It hardly looks significant, and the significance is exaggerated. Who says it's disrupted? Well, apparently Business Insider does, and here's their article. All cash home buyers are becoming disruptive to the housing industry. Well, what's disruptive? When you read the article, you have one guy quoted in here, one gal from Cross Country Mortgage, a good company, saying cash offers are used to be an occasional nuisance. Now they're becoming disruptive. Now, again, that doesn't comport with the data. Even at the lowest, they were 20% of the market versus 34%. So they weren't an occasional nuisance. They haven't even doubled from where they were at the all-time lowest. So here we have Business Insider quoting somebody with no real information, stating something that's obviously not correct, and then using that to create a attention-grabbing headline, disruptive, right? It's not disruptive. I can tell you as a listing agent, I get offers that are cash, I get offers that are financed. Normally cash offers are going to win on properties that can't be financed. I have a property, I'm closing escrow next week, where it can't be financed. The house is basically uninhabitable. I got offers from lenders who said they could FHA finance the property, but I know they couldn't. They had been to the house. And when they heard that cash buyer got it, they go, oh yeah, those cash buyers won the deal. No, that property could only be purchased via cash. So this is really just taking what I think exaggerated old data and putting lipstick on it, making it sound scary. And if that's not bad enough, here's Business Insider. Here's the same article on Yahoo News. All cash home buyers becoming disruptive. Sound familiar? Well, why is that? Because this is Business Insider being reported on Yahoo. It's the same article, same columnist. So there's this echo chamber where Redfin puts out maybe defensible information because they're a company, it could be sued, and they don't want to mislead their customers. They let Business Insider and Yahoo and all the echo chamber that they feed, let them do all the false information. And then it gets even worse because then you get to small companies. Here's one, Newsbreak, never heard of them. And this contributor puts Ohio home buyers are paying for homes with cash to avoid high mortgage rates. Now, they're quoting the same Redfin data, but that's not what it says. It says there's home buyers who pay cash like investors, like institutions, because it's easier to close for cash, fix the house, and then refinance or sell it. There's no evidence saying that cash buyers are taking properties from buyers, but clearly there's no cash saying this. There's no evidence saying this, that home buyers are paying cash instead of financing. In my experience as a realtor, you have two types of buyers. You have one who has a lot of cash, and they buy a house and use it, and the others who don't have cash, who have to finance. I've rarely had buyers who said, well, I don't know if I want to be a cash buyer or a finance buyer. I've had buyers who had cash and decided to finance it for good economic reasons, but they're not buyers of property with cash. Buyers of property cash are usually investors and home flippers. So this is now we have Redfin creating this echo chamber and a second echo chamber now, and it's even more misleading. So what do you do? As always, don't let the news scare you into something that doesn't make sense. In this case, don't make it encourage you to buy for cash when you should finance a property. As a real estate agent, I convince listing agents with good lenders and proper preparation that my financed offer is as good as cash buyers in many cases. So you do what's best for you. And if you can't compete on that property for whatever reason, it probably means you're not the right buyer for that property. So plan for yourself, get your own plan in place. And if it's the right time to buy. If it's the right time to finance. If was the right time to sell, sell. But don't let the news fool you or convince you or scare you into something that doesn't work for you. What are your thoughts? You read the Redfin article, you saw it in the news. What did you think of it? Put your comments below. I'm Bill Gross. I'm social media at Bill Gross EXP. Call me, text me, email me if I can help you. And as always, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.